Hi, welcome to another Lawn Fawn video. I'm Kara and today we're following the ants underground for a birthday party. So we're using Crazy Antics, a bug deal, party animal, coaster critters, and slide on over maze. I'll begin by cutting out the slide on over maze using my die cut machine. And there it is. And that will be our trail for our ant. And now I'm going to put in the sentiments, and it's going to be hard to see for a little while because I'm going to white heat emboss them. But I'm using Happy Birthday from A Bug Deal, and then I'm using the sentiment, I love your crazy, and then I'm going to use the word ant. And that you can also use the ICS, Antics, but I'm going to change it up a little bit, and you'll see that in a while. So I'm taking my anti-static pouch, making sure that I'm not going to get any powder where I don't want, some clear ink, and I'm wiping off the I from I love you're crazy, and stamping that down. And I'm going to use some white embossing powder and sprinkle that on the sentiments and heat that up with my heat gun and then go on with some more white heat embossing. So just stay tuned. You'll see the results once we start ink blending. But I'm using balloons from Critter Coasters because they're nice and small and they fit my ant party. And then the cake and the present from Party Animal, because you have to have cake and presents at a party. And these are those little confetti pieces. And I'm stamping those down at first with the Misty, but then I'll stamp more of those with an acrylic block. Inking those up with some clear ink and stamping them down. And then filling up the room with more confetti and another balloon. And then this party scene is pretty much done. Just going to add the embossing powder and I'll heat that up with my heat tool. And we're all set to begin the ink blending. So I'm going to take the hillside stencil, one of them, and figure out where I want the top of my ground to be. And I'm going to tape down my paper so it won't move. And I'm going to use Distress ink. This is Gathered Twigs, and I'm really speeding this up, but I'm covering the whole underground in Gathered Twigs, and then I'm going to move on to Aged Mahogany. That's going to give me a rich red soil, and I guess I wanted to do that because the whole card was brown, so I wanted it to be a pretty brown. So we've got the Aged Mahogany in there to help. And then I'm deepening up the color with the ground espresso. And I'm actually also going in and tapping sections with that so that it kind of has a texture to it. And I'm going to tap with the ground espresso and also with the aged mahogany to get it a little redder in there. Now I can take a paper towel and wipe off the embossed areas so they are nice and clear. I want to pull the ink out of the balloons and the different images so that I can color them. So I'm taking water on a clean brush and just putting that in the image and dabbing it up with a paper towel. And I found that if I put in enough water, as I did with the second group of balloons on the left, it picked it up right away. Otherwise, I had to kind of come back and do it a couple of times. I'm going to lift up that stencil and have a nice clean hill there. So now I can start coloring, and I'm using some brighter colors. This is a B02 for some of the balloons and the gift, and I'm using a YR07 for the frosting and some balloons. And I wanted these brighter colors so that they would pop out from the background, and also because there is still a little ink on the back there, so didn't want that to get lost in that kind of almost like craft, like coloring on craft paper. But this is the R29 and the B05 just coming in and shading a little bit, the different balloons and the present and all the different things there. Coming in and blending it just like I normally would with my Copic coloring, and some of the ink from the markers got on the white embossing, and so I take the zero, the colorless blender, and pick that up, and then I wipe it off on a little piece of paper so that I have a clean tip. And you can see it even on the ink, it takes off the distress ink. You can see the difference between the happy and the birthday. The birthday is a lot whiter there. All right, with some crunchy leaf ink from Lawn Fawn, I'm going to stamp out the outside of the anthill. And so this is the basket from Crazy Antics. And then I'll mask off that hill and put that little mound of dirt up there, and that is from a Bug Deal. Stamp that out, also in Crunchy Leaf. And that's over where the tunnel starts on the surface. All right, now I'm going to stamp my little ants out with jet black ink, and I'm going to stamp them on some scratch paper to start, just because they're newer stamps, and so I want to make sure I have them well primed so that they stamp perfectly. And I'm having them go down the picnic basket and across the hill and over to their little entryway to their home. And I'm going to mask that and just have this one guy like diving in there. So clean them off and start with the food for the party. And this is the food they pilfered from the picnic basket. And the nice thing is, as I stamp these down, because these ants are solid black, I didn't have to mask them in order for the food to look like it's behind them. One thing I love about this new Crazy Antics set is that the ants come in two different sizes. And so obviously I'm using the littler ants today, but the bigger ants are also super fun and really adorable. So, all right, I'm done with my food that they're going to take, and I thought I'd put one more ant just peeking out of that basket there. All right, a few ants need to be down in the party. And meanwhile, while I'm stamping those, let's talk about that sentiment. So I took the sentiment that said, I love your crazy, and I took off the I. So it just says, love your crazy aunt, because I will give this to one of my nephews, and I'm sure that's, I'm sure it's very appropriate that I would be a crazy aunt. so, so it will say, happy birthday, love your crazy aunt. And I will fix that grammar with a white gel pen. But meanwhile, I'm going to color up the top of the hill. And so I kind of color matched my distress inks with the E30s. So I'm using just E34 and 537 and 39 just to shade that in, kind of make it look like dirt. And then for the basket, I wanted something different than the dirt colors, so I went with the E50s for that. And my lightest color is the E53, and I'm shading in E55 and finding all those different lines that would have shadows. And then I will even come in with the darker E57 with the shadows there. And then I'll blend it all back in with the 55 and the 53. So recently I had my 50th birthday, and one of my daughters put together this video tribute and asked all of my family members what they remember about me and my nephews. One said plain stuffed animals, and the other remembers doing a sippy cup race, who could drink from a sippy cup the fastest. I don't even remember doing that, but anyway, so I guess I am the crazy aunt. Well, all right, so on to the food, and there's that bun in the E50s and some cheese in yellow reds and yellows, and the chip bag in yellow. This is a Y04, and also the cheese. And I'm staying with the brighter colors for these just to kind of match up with the birthday party at the bottom. Blend up that YR15 with the Y04 and shade over on the chip bag with a Y08 and blend that in with the Y04. And then a little pastrami or ham over there with the R02 and 05 and some lettuce with the YG21. I'm also going to put it in the rind, and the outside of the watermelon is going to be a YG03. And then for the inside, I've got an RV21, and I'm going to blend that with an RV23. I'm going to redden it up with the R02 and with the R05, and then kind of blend that all back together with the RV21. The soda can's going to start off with the B02 and shaded with the B05. And the chip bag's going to have that same B02 to kind of bring it over to the other side of the card. Shade that. And then I'm going to have a red label on that soda. So, or pop, depending on where you live, or juice. I mean, we've got a lot of different words for that. And then this is the B37, kind of to darken it up. And also I'm going to darken up the label with an R39. Once I have those finished, I want to fix my little ant there that was diving into the ant hill. And I'm going to color the background with a B000. Just color everything there. There's not a lot of space there. And when I color a sky, I like to do it kind of in scribbly motions, and that way it all kind of blends together. I don't have any streaks. And then I'm going to take the B00 and darken that up near the ground. And once that's done, I'll come back with that B000 and just blend it back into the sky. So now we can start putting this card together. I have a 4¼ by 5½ inch note card, and I'm ink blending on the top of it with the Gathered Twigs Distress ink and putting in some texture in that dirt with the E30s. So just going all around with little dots, and then I'll come back in with dots of a lighter color, so E35, and then here's the E34 just on top of them and all around, just to give it that texture. And I'm even going to go into the trails with some of that so that the texture kind of goes throughout the entire habitat. This is an E31 because it's lighter like the background. All right, I have some fun foam or craft foam that I'm going to use, and I will cut that out with the slide on over maze, and I'd like it to be about the same place as the panel, but I can fix it later if it's not exact. I can trim around it. So there it is, and it cut out beautifully. This one has sticky on one side, so it has adhesive on the back. I just kind of fit it where I want it and need to trim off the bottom of that. So I'll go do that. I also want to figure out where to cut the acetate because this is essentially a shaker card, but it's actually a magnetic trail for our little ants. So get that acetate there, set that aside, and get the birthday ant all ready. So the ant of the hour, here he is, stamped out in jet black ink. And I'm going to cut that out with the coordinating die. So cute. So put that through my die cut machine, and there he is. I don't know, something about that little ant. It's just adorable. So I also cut it out of this magnet sheet. And this is kind of a thicker magnet, so I'm hoping it's powerful enough. And I want to put some double-sided tape on that magnet between the magnet and the ant to hold him on there. Want to make sure that he is not going to come off of the magnet. I have a safety pin and a paper clip, and they both pick him up. But let's see what happens when we put him under glass or, or acetate in this case. So I'm going to put him in the trail, the tunnel, put the acetate on top and the panel. And now I can sort of pick him up with the safety pin and the paper clip, but I have this little magnet, and that's the trick. That really moves him around. So that's what I would put in with this card is a little magnet to help move him around. I want to trim out those trails a little bit around the edges, the corners especially, but also I'm going around the entire trail, just trimming it a bit so that he has a little more room to roam. And I remember having a toy like this when I was a kid. I think it was a bee in a beehive, and it was magnetic. And you can take this little wand that it came with, it had a little magnet at the end, and you could just wind him around in the beehive. But same thing here. This is the same concept that we're doing for this card. So I'm putting the adhesive on to hold the acetate, and that's what it looks like. And now I'll put some adhesive on to attach the foam. Take off the release paper, and I also want just a 1/8 inch down at that bottom because I have a very small part at the bottom there. So I'm going to put that on. Here it is. So I used 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and then this is the 1/8 inch double-sided tape. That way I know my foam is secure and that ant is not going to leave the trail and go rogue on us. So carefully putting that foam down, making sure that I'm not covering up any of the trail, and make sure that I don't see any of the foam from the front. So now I can put my ant in the tunnel, and I'm going to keep him in there by putting the magnet on the other side to keep him from slipping out. Take that adhesive off the back and secure it to the note card. Now I can take off the magnet to drop the ant, and there it is. So you can shake it around like a shaker, and that's fine, but it's a lot more fun to use the magnet. So there he goes up, he's going through the trails, and he's gonna start up at the top. So here he comes down, and he's gonna go over to see his birthday sign, happy birthday. And then he's gonna come back down and check out who it's from, his crazy aunt, and he notices that the grammar is off, so he's telling his aunt, come and fix that." Put the comma in with a white Signo gel pen, so now he's happy and he can go down and eat his cake and then open the presents. Now, a stronger piece of metal would work as well. So I have this palette knife, and ooh, he's doing somersaults, but this would bring him around too. So if you had something stronger or thicker in metal that you would want to give the recipient if you didn't have a little magnet. But there he is, all set in his tunnel. Well, I hope you enjoyed the card today and it inspired you to maybe make a little magnetic game of your own, or just a fun little ant trail for a birthday card. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.